gang. Hello, teacher squad. Thanks for making it tonight. I know some of you are greatly relieved because you're in year 6 and SATs are over. I know some of you in year 2 got some more time there and things to do, but you're here, you've made it. And we've carved a slice of time because, well, not only do we just keep on giving as teachers, you're brilliant time giver-uppers, you're just such beautiful brainiacs, and we're little CPD seekers, and we've gathered tonight. There's a change of topic. Spelling's off the agenda. It's a bit of a tough one, spelling, is it? We're not very good at it anyway, I'm not. And we've got writing on the cards. I'm delighted about that. You know I all care about writing, and we're going to really get under the skin of it, really looking at a very kind of microscopic level, very ant-like. We're going to really tune in to the small stuff. Now, last time we gathered, Jude Temple came up with an amazing idea to install, I don't know if that's the right word actually, install, well, invite maybe, create, thank you, etymology elephant who could help us with the heritage of words. Unfortunately, our etymology elephant, you know, the elephant who never forgets, who's been on the planet for a long time and knows the long history of words, met our Honey. Now, who is Honey? Let me show you who Honey is. Honey is our French bulldog. You might hear some background grunting in this room tonight. It's not Ian. This is Honey. Our Honey found the etymology elephant, and I'm afraid, yes, she shredded it and ripped it all over the garden. So thanks, Honey, you naughty little honey bunny. Oh man. So yeah, go on then, Honey. So yeah, that rubbish, weren't it? So that didn't last long. Luckily, I'm just letting you know that Grandma Fantastic is safe and no other people were hurt in the incident. Right. Or animals. Right, who's who? Well, I'm Jane Considine. I'm here to talk about writing. I am going to explore very closely a teaching sequence, not a whole teaching sequence over time, but a very small part of the order of things to really ensure that we have a productive teaching and learning exchange. I'm also sending a big fat heartburst to the 25% of you around the country who have, you know, got chosen for writing moderation. I mean, it's a bit of a tricky year, isn't it, people? Can I just say, I've seen on Instagram a shout out, not for year 2 teachers, but from year 6 teachers who have either been chosen this year for the process or have previously experienced that. So that love and care, try and get yourself involved in one of those communities. If not, make friends with a moderator. They are quite nice. I've got some moderators who are friends. Do you know what I mean? They're real people. They're not all difficult. Anyway, Ian's here with me. Ian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes.
Good boy. Put this
Hi,
camera.
everybody.
Yeah, in a better mood this week, gotta say.
Yeah.
Have you got anything to add, Mr. C?
About moderation?
No, anything. Well, you can do that if you want.
Yeah, I will think of something. You know, the night is young. I'm just cracked open a bottle, so
yeah, I'm sure he'll warm
just
up.
straight back to you. She actually told me that I have to warn her when I'm going back to her now because she keeps on picking her nose and stuff.
Yeah, well,
was I meant to say that?
No. Anyway, so essentially, Ian, remember as well, Ian's job, apart from, you know, over and beyond sort of techie things to support me, what he knows about all the systems to do with reading and writing and spelling, his years in the classroom, he really is the go-to guy for aftercare. If you want some extra, slower, very measured support. You know, he works around, you know, staff meeting times, lunch breaks, anything like that. You know, get hold of us at info@thetrainingspace and book a Zoom call with Ian, because the reports we get back from his support are second to none. So do reach out and get a bit of Mr. C in your life. Yeah, it's all happening. Oh, and later today, he's got a 20% off code for us. Yeah, and he's going to share that later if you want to come and see us. Mr. C, chill. I'll write it on a bit of paper. Just pretend it's very bloody slick. Oh, my God. You see, I've got to come to do these rehearsals myself. You don't turn up, you see. And then he doesn't know what's happening. Oh, Vicky, that's lovely. What's she saying? Put your camera on, Mr. C. Let us know.
I'm not going to put my camera on. Just saying how amazing I am.
Oh.
How we've helped her schools and her so much. I keep on putting it on her. Always ready and willing.
Oh, he is ready. He is willing. That is like the up there feedback we have from people who've had a one-to-one with Ian. By the way, Vicky, I'm just letting you know the boundaries of tonight. There's no flirting with Mr. C. Right, let's move on. A couple of things I want to let you know. If you haven't got your hands on a Right Stuff book, it is worth getting your copy, because all the guiding principles are in there of things I'm going to talk about tonight. I know some of you have had yours nicked, or there was a school one that you're sharing and it's now time that you want your own. Do get hold of one if you haven't already. And the other thing, can you put your camera on?
Sorry, talking about the Right Stuff book, and this is only current for today's date, which is the 15th of May 2022, if you're watching this in a couple of years. We just got a notification on Friday that they've nearly sold out. So there are some more coming, but we don't know when because of sort of like issues with printing and stuff, so it could be a few weeks. But just to let people know, they are down to the last few hundred. All right, what is that? Okay, is that the code? All right.
Yeah, but I need to check that actually. Can you check that code? I've just given you the, but now I'm thinking. People who know about the code. So let's just. Okay, well, it's not now, Mr. C. Oh my goodness! Right, unit plans. Things to let you know. We have over 100 unit plans on the website. And this summer term, we're going to launch more unit plans there. There's going to be a big push for early years plans, and there's going to be others for the other years, just to give you a flavour of what's coming on board. And some of these texts, you know that I've loved for a really long time, and we've written units around them. We've got the Proudest Blue coming in for the early years. This book is absolutely stunning, by Hannah Pang, called Seasons. It's a really interestingly organised book, but so beautifully illustrated. We've got The Bear and the Piano, and in my eyes, David Litchfield can do no wrong. Malala's Magic Pencil for Year 2, an absolute stonker of a classic. The Snowman animation for Year 5, and of course, all of our favourites, The Arrival for Year 6, amongst others. There's quite a few unit plans getting launched, so keep your eyes out for that in the summer term. Okay, I think we're going to get started. We're going to move to some nitty gritty. I'm hoping tonight.
You're rabbiting on a bit, to be fair.
Oh, am I?
You're 12 minutes in already.
Oh, Mr. C, how very dare you? I'm hoping that tonight there's going to be messages that when I tell you them, you're going to go, yeah, I know that. And that's really nice when we have CPD messages like that, reassuring, yeah, I know that, I feel that, work like that. There's nothing tonight that's going to be sort of out there and going to push us over the edge, you know, make us more stressed. But it's all going to be quite comfortable territory. But we're just going to zoom in, just looking at those very small things that can have a really big impact. Okay, first things first. In terms of sort of big structures that become mind frames for children, as well as kind of visual places where they can hang their thinking. We're going to always, whether it's non-fiction or poetry or story, we share a narrative map, a story map. And for story, this is revealed slowly over time. Now, some of the big messages we know about our story map, and I just want to sharpen your thinking here. It works a bit like maths. We want to start teaching English more like maths. And we work on this graph approach where we have character highs and character
Jane,
lows.
sorry.
Yes, Mr. C?
We've got a problem with your microphone,
Oh dear.
apparently.
Oh, that's bad.
Sorry to
Sort the mic out
So
then.
I'm going to do it really instantly.
Oh,
Could
so
somebody
sorry.
Just put in the chat, see if Jane's.
What's
mic
happened
is
to my
okay.
mic? I must be working on yours, am I?
No,
Which is rubbish.
So if somebody could say if
Yeah.
it's better or not now.
Is it charged? There's no light on it actually, but it's
No,
not
no,
even
no.
charged.
Let's just see.
Can you
We'll
hear me
say
now?
hello.
Is
We'll
that
say
better?
Sorted. Thank you.
Sorted. Do you know what?
Sorry to interrupt, Jane.
He's trying to blag that. That is his fault and a button he hasn't pressed, but we're going to let it go.
Can I just ask a quick question before you run on and start with that?
I thought you said I was rabbiting.
You
and
are
that.
really badly rabbiting. but
Put
we're-
your camera on then,
we're in the
Mr.
flow.
C.
No, it's a question.
Okay.
Do we know when the new plans will be hitting the website? As I'm eager to start my whole school long-term plans in preparation for next year. That's from Danny.
Yeah. Hi, Danny. Hi, Danny. We have been given a date, but I can't remember it offhand. Ian, if you can contact Ellie, please.
She's not gonna...
Okay, so basically, if you watch this space, we're definitely going to launch it before the summer term. We're thinking about July, and I don't want to be closed in. I have been told. Oh, what is it?
It's June 20th.
Okay, there you go then. It's not even July.
I even knew the answer. So it's June 20th.
Let me write that down. Oh, yeah, let's write that down. June 20th, you're going to have all of the unit plans uploaded, as well as and I think even before then we'll put an overview in so you can see the ones that are going to be launched to inform long-term planning. That's a really good question, Danny.
Sorry, carry on.
Okay, sorry about my mic earlier, and I hope we've sorted that. Okay, so the narrative map works like this. So we have character highs and character lows. And what I'd like you to do when you place your narrative map on your working wall is these areas are hidden. The children will know there's going to be 5 plot points, but they are revealed slowly. Now, just so there's some strong messaging that's happening in the classroom, we have a plot point making a writing lesson and a writing lesson making a mini paragraph. So by the very nature of showcasing over time 5 plot points, we know there's going to be 5 paragraphs of writing. Now, that means that you have a lot of control as a teacher. Do you want to build a 3-paragraph story, a 9-paragraph story, a 2-paragraph story, or just one? Now, if you have been chosen for writing moderation, you want to move really craftily now and get some very quick instant sort of writing out of them, where you're going to do lots of 1 plot points, 1 waypoints. The waypoints are for non-fiction, so you can populate a writing folder, right up until the last minute. Okay, so the other thing I want to say is this central character here, Lucas, and Lucas is the name I've given to the boy in this story. These plot points are taken from this book by Sydney Smith, and in my eyes, Sydney Smith can do no wrong. He also wrote Talk Like a River, but Small in the City is a really stunning book, and we've dipped into this book and taken out 5 key plot points that hang as a continuous story. What I'm going to do tonight is zoom into this first plot point and really break it down, really break down the order of things, and recognizing that one plot point makes a writing lesson. Now, what is the shape of a writing lesson? The shape of a writing lesson looks like this. It works in learning chunks, and broadly on your timetable, if you've got an English session that lasts for about an hour, and I don't want to be too prescriptive about it, but it's sort of working in 20-minute chunks where we're thinking that what's driving it is working to a well-structured, highly purposeful sentence with clarity, very precise. That is the key driver here. And what we're doing as a teacher is we're initiating the writing, we're passing it over to children like a bridge that they can see in a really explicit way. We're going to model some writing for them. And next week, we're going to talk about modelled and demonstration writing in really a lot of detail. And then finally, what the pupils are going to do. So it's like, to me, it's modelled and then over to you, and then moving like that across that session. Okay. Let's have a look now how the shape of a lesson will actually transpose into the pupils' books. And this needs a bit of teasing out, because I think it's really crucial that we don't see this in a too much of a simplistic way, but there's a real sense of how that broad idea of what I'm doing as the teacher, what I'm modelling, and how the children will interact with that exchange. So here is a capture of the pupils' books. And you can see that this is the spine of the book, and children work on a double-page spread. There is a thinking side and a writing side. Now, this is not me saying that this has to be a blank page here. I recognise in most books this will have lines. But the children line off the book into 3 learning chunks. Learning chunk 1, learning chunk 2, and learning chunk 3. Now, in the initiate part, the purpose of that is that we do 2 things at once. We stimulate and excite the children for writing, but we also give them time to explore, use their thesaurus thinking, and gather lots of words that to prepare them for writing, a very strong and sturdy word bank that they can lean on prior to writing their model. Now, what I want you to notice here is that, yes, sometimes there will be 1 word bank, but in some learning chunks like here, we've got 2 word banks. And we've got to think about that actually children might need more than just 1 set of synonyms to put them in the best place to succeed with their model. So even though we say initiate, almost modelling is on the spine of the book, that's what they're visually seeing and living in the classroom, then they have a go themselves. The initiate might include this generation of 2 word banks. Now, before I go any further, I'm just going to ask the chat. I'm going to ask Mr. C.
People are just commenting really.
Yeah.
Some people have got some good ideas about what they do.
Great.
So Kirsty said that she sometimes puts in pictures and gets to put their ideas around this.
Yes,
well.
That's nice.
Let's have a quick look.
I love that. I love the idea that on that thinking side, there can be pictures, there can be images, there can be photographs, there can be visuals.
Zoe's just put a
Yes.
A bit of a question really
Yes.
to the squad. Does anybody provide a thinking side to glue in that has lenses printed and a few words to start them off?
That's a really good question. Now, Zoe, hold that thought. I'm going to come back to that in a moment because, yes, that sort of scaffolding on the thinking side is a really important part of one, there'll be scaffolding in the room because of how we're modelling, but there's another layer of almost like the knee-up scaffolding for the lowest attaining children who need to be doing what the rest of us are doing in the classroom, but we're helping them get there. But we'll talk about that in a moment. So hold that thought, Zoe.
Just one more comment.
Yes.
Joey Diaz
seems
to think that you'll just have 30 pieces of the same writing.
Okay. Joey, did you say? Joey. Right, we're going to just talk about that as well, Joey, because what I think we've got to recognise that is part of the Right Stuff approach is there's two very, and I'm not going to talk long about this tonight, but there's two very discrete things that we have to consider. There is the I'm teaching you how to write. I'm stepping into being metacognitive. I'm showing you how to think as a writer. I'm showing you vocabulary vaults that you can lean on, and you are working under my modelling wing, which means that I'm going to ask you to work very closely with me. And then down the line, when we want them to produce their own independent writing, we move through a different sequence of planning, independent writing, editing, where they take all of their taught ideas and they're able to apply them by themselves. So they're two very, children have got a lot to learn about writing and they need a lot of experience to live in action words with us and alongside us. But I'm going to talk, don't do that yet, Mr. C, because I tell you why, I really want to get to the nitty gritty of why we get kids to a place where they won't be copying our model. And that is really, and Joey, that's the heart of the matter today. And I want to explain that first, and then I think we can explore that further. Okay, so let's just get this under our belt first. So, when we work in this way, one of the things that we want to do is give children kind of a mental schema of not just isn't Miss amazing and I pick up a pen and I'm working on the fly or the hoof and I just look like a great writer. It's not about the teacher, and that's fairly irrelevant. It's about I am modelling for you constantly through kind of a whole range of worked examples, and I am showing you through loads of different contexts, lots of different stories, adventure stories, nature stories, fantasy stories, balanced arguments, reports, leaflets, poetry, how these lenses come to life and feel different, but can all live in the home, in the filing cabinet, as it were, of simile. Now, these lenses of illumination come from the writing rainbow. And let's now look at what these lenses are broadly. I know many of you know these, but just let's have a whistle-stop tour of these. The writing rainbow is organised in 3 tiers. The top tier is about the ideas of writing, and it doesn't matter if you're Julia Donaldson or Michael Morpurgo, there are only 9 lenses through which you can push your ideas, and they are the 5 senses and feeling, action, speech and thought. So the 5 senses, the sense of sight, touch, smell, taste and sound, and then feeling, dialogue, action and inner thought. That is crucial because when children say they don't know what to do, they often mean they don't know what to write. And if they know there are 9 ideas, then it can really sharpen their choices and where they go with it. Now, the second tier is all about the grammar of writing, and everything in the national curriculum can be filed back under these lenses. So, for example, sentence structure, are we writing a short sentence for impact? Are we writing a long sentence? Is it simple? Is it compound? Is it complex? And everything in between, we can pick up one of those lenses and teach something very grammarly as we push our pen through that lens. In context, grammar in context, going back to all of Deborah Myhill's work, where we kind of live it in action because of the purposeful writing we're doing. And then finally, the techniques of writing, things like alliteration or rhyme or repetition for effect or simile or metaphor. So these are the lenses that we make bright and clear and give clarity to, because children meet them regularly and often and all the time. So bringing that down into an actual lesson, I'm not even going to talk through a whole lesson. I'm now going to join up our thinking across those big structures and ideas. So first things first, we've got a plot point. We've got the first plot point on our map. We're going to take Lucas, and I want you to think like that graph, that Lucas is pick-offable, on that map, and we're going to push Lucas through the first plot point, and we're going to say, what is the impact on Lucas? And the first plot point is him getting off the bus on the way home from school and arriving in the city on his walk home. Now, in that lesson, it's going to be organised in learning chunks, and we're going to push our writing through the idea of sound, then through repetition for effect, then through sight. What I want to do is just zoom into one plot point, because I think if we really get one plot point very clearly, then we can apply that as kind of a big message to every time we teach a learning chunk. So there are a few things that I think will particularly sharpen our practice and put children in a place where modelling will allow them, if we set the modelling up correctly, and it's on the back of extensive vocabulary vaults, it will set them up in a place where they can practice under our guidance, but get confidence, build their self-esteem to go off and make their own.
I think
yes.
Before you move on, go to me. And can you also stop rocking on that chair, please? It's binging. So, I think the important thing to say about this as well, I'm just actually, every time you visit those lenses, it's not the first time you'll visit them. You might visit them 3 or 4 days before, maybe 2. Some of the grammar is quite complex, but they will be dropping in every 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, 2 weeks. And as long as you're doing the training correctly, when you come to meet, what have you got there, Jane? Repetition for effect. They might have done it 4 or 5 days before, or 2 weeks before. You're not doing these elements, in blocks. So they do massively improve as they go along. I just wanted to add that in, Jane, because you didn't quite cover that.
Okay, so plot point 1 and the first learning chunk on plot point 1. I want to establish 2 aspects that are going to truly strengthen the teaching and learning exchange. What we're not going to do with this approach is read the book. And our reading teaching happens in every day, half an hour, damn good reading teaching. Whatever form that takes, if you're doing book talk, guided reading, whole class novels, whatever form it takes, that's where we're damn good reading teachers. What I don't want children to get into the trap of fixing a story that they've read from the award-winning authors, and actually it eats at their self-esteem and they think that is the only answer. And we're going to pave the way by giving them, rather than the fixed answer, there are lots of ways that we can explore this key event in the story. So the two big aspects that we need to help this come into being in our classrooms, number one is how we narrate, and this is like the teacher as the narrator, how we narrate a plot point to life. And there's the narrating a plot point to life aspect, and there's another type of narration that I want to talk about later. But first things first, teacher as narrator. This only has to happen once at the beginning of a lesson to help a plot point live and breathe in the room. And the teacher as a narrator is us not reading the story, because, you know, if I was going to lift every plot point from the book, we'd have 28. We have to slim things down, make them more economic. And what we're going to do here is bring this plot point to life. Now, this is a very loose style of narration. Of course, we can lean on the author's words, but we are helping the children get to the backbone of the story, know what's happening. And how I want you to understand teacher as narrator is we're narrating all the way up to the moment of that picture, as well as to the moment where they are going to take on the writing. So it kind of works as a sort of context, background, making sure they're all with you with where we are in the story. So the sort of thing you might narrate into the room is this sort of thing. Lucas always caught the bus home from school by himself. It was quite a long journey back. He thought he was always the smallest person on the bus. And he probably was. Today, his journey was no different. He would catch the bus into the city and pull the bell to let the driver know he needed to get off. That means that we're all there at the same place. Now, what I want the children to concentrate on now is they're going to move with me in this lesson to write a sound sentence, a repetition for effect sentence, and the sights of the city. So there's lots of things to explore, but we're going to chunk it down. Now, there's another type of narration that is much tighter, and this is called modelled narration. And the modelled narration is all about preparing children to tune into very precise, accurate, right words at the right time language that they need prior to writing. Now, of course, we want children to read widely, we want children to have loads of language, but we know we've been hurt by COVID. We're living an era where children need more words, not less words. So we have to work hard almost to slice open the teaching and learning exchange and drench it with the formal words of writing for the very children who aren't reading. Now, if I just showed children that picture and put pressure on them through pair talk and say, well, what sounds do you think you could imagine in that story? I'd probably get cars are beeping, people are talking, the traffic is noisy. And it might be a bit kind of pulling teeth, stirring mud, and I might be a bit disappointed. What I want to do is insert very purposefully here modelled narration, where my job is going to be talking very accurate words that I've planned, that I've tightly planned, that are way beyond their vernacular, words they're never going to come up with themselves. You know, they're very formal if they were reader words. And their role in this, when I'm modelled narrating, is that they are word collecting. And what I want you to think about is, well, how much pressure am I going to put on them because we're in year 6? How many words would I want them to collect? If they're in year 4, in year 3, in the early years, you know, how many words? And actually, I'm not going to tread on their toes. I'm not going to talk about cars beeping or things like that. I'm going to make sure that I pitch it so that they are free to come up with their own ideas. So not only am I really thinking about that, the other thing I want them to do is not just talk after they've collected. I want them to jot. I want them to chat and jot so that the talk doesn't just fly out the room, or as it isn't scribbled on a whiteboard and gobbed off with their jumper. I want it very formally collected. Obviously, I say formally, as in I want it captured. I want brave, best spelling. I know it will be their phonic best choices, but let's get some ideas going that are triggered from within and beyond the picture. I know I've written this down, but I'm going to talk now the sort of thing that might be happening in the room where my role is modelled narrator and their role is word collector. So it might go something like this. Right, children, you're going to be word collectors. I want you to listen out for 5 words, actually 5 nouns of things that we can imagine are beyond the picture, or they might be in the picture, that could be making a lot of noise. There are 5 to collect. I want you to listen carefully. In fact, you can show me on your fingers how many you think you've caught. Are you ready? The city was loud with ambulances, police cars, tourists, refuge bin collectors, and road repair machinery. I want them now to jot. I want them to turn to each other in pairs, but I want them to be able to also jot down. They might be jotting on stickers because they're sat on the carpet, or they might be jotting on books because they're at their tables. I want them to gather the ideas that they've just heard, but then they can also add their own. Straight after a chart just here, where they can write down as many that they can remember and add their own, I move then instantly into kind calling out. Kind calling out is no hands up. It's kind because I don't want them to get too shouty because I'll kill them. And if I've written down the word or words, road repair machinery, stop screaming it at me, we've got it down. So it's going to be like a very grown-up conversation. I will hear my ideas mirrored back, as well as them adding their own.
There's a little bit of feedback from that particular, the kind of calling out. And Kai wrote, word collecting is so powerful. It's also okay to reject words, then work together to up-level those words. And basically what it's saying is after 1 or 2 units, the children really get it. They're not feeling rejected or dejected. It's just you as a very quick scribe, very quick analyser of the language that's coming in, and making your choices from there. Would you agree on that, Jane?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a massive fan of moving away from that position of going, oh, nearly, or not sure, maybe, or just like, I'm going to reject that. It's not quite right. Let's really go for precision.
Yeah, I think the important thing about this is that you're working at high pace. This is very pacey. It's about quick engagement, quick diffusion of what they're of the vocabulary that they're using. You're adding to it. Other adults in the room are adding to it. You want everybody involved in it, but you don't want people to feel dejected, or you don't want them to feel like But as well, you've got to be honest about it. You've got to be, oh no, that's not quite right. But you've got to keep it moving really, really pacey, and it gets the language up. Particularly if you're in a school that has got, perhaps, high EAL percentage, or, as we're all in at the moment, COVID has basically destroyed vocabulary, particularly for the earlier years. So we want to immerse them in as much language as possible, even if it's wrong. Sorry, Jane.
One of the things we need to do here, and I know some schools are doing this, but not all schools. There needs to be a mode that when kind calling out is happening, which is essentially going to be, let's be really clear about this, your words mirrored back at you, and the minute they're mirrored back, we go, wow, thank you, Jasper. Did you just say road repair machinery? That's a really good idea. So, there's a lot of value given for close listening. But there's another thing I want them to do is audit and add, so that when they see ambulances written down, they tick their word off to say they've got ambulances. That was one of their words. But when they see, let's say, drills, road drills written down, and they didn't write that, even though it's in the department of road repair machinery, they have to write it down. Now, we might have some rules according to their age. When we do kind calling out, you always have to add 4 more ideas to your list. But I want you to almost view it like bingo, ticking off what you've got. So as a teacher, I can have a quick look at their books and say, right, they'd already banked 6 from good listening, added 2 of their own, and through kind calling out, added 3 more. So this is sense of how effective each part of the process is for individual children as well. Okay, now what this means is there's 2 things happening at once in the room. Me as a teacher, live on a board, I am writing all the words down. Now, these are the ones that have been mirrored back from tight narration, ambulances, tourists, police cars, road repair machinery, refuge bin collector. But then here are their own ideas, and everything's written down at a pace. Now, we might not get that many, but you can see what I'm getting at. So I'm writing live on the board, but children are also writing in their books. And what the children's books will look like is a mix of that sort of thing and the adding of their own. We then have a strong word bank to lean on, but this might not even be enough to hit modelling, because I might have some nouns here that could create a lot of city noise, but actually to strengthen their writing, I want to move to a place where I might collect some verbs. Just have a little look at this photograph from a school in Peterborough I was teaching a couple of weeks ago in year 2. Now, it was just unlucky that in this school they don't have an enormous fixed whiteboard on the wall, but that would be the ideal. But you can see how we've gathered 2 wheelie whiteboards to make this work. This side acts as the thinking side, like their book. And this part here acts like their writing side. I am gathering words following strong, tight, modelled narration. So we're getting language like vandalised mirrored back because it was one of the modelled narrate words, but the children are adding their own, like broken and closed. We were describing shops that were run down. So there's this mix of high order writerly words that have been modelled into the room, mirrored back from children, and them adding their own. But their job is to run their books like writing journals so that before we get to a place like Joey said, which is they're just going to copy your model, all the kids in the class are going to have the same writing. We've worked hard to have vocabulary vaults that are deep, that are strong, that are a mix of high order ideas and theirs, so that when they come to write their own, they've got a lot to lean on. Yes, Mr. C.
Right. Kai's just saying that he uses visualizers.
Brilliant.
So that the teacher textbook that he does looks like the children's book, so that when he's gathering vocabulary, he knows where. It might be worthwhile you just sort of going into detail about. I know that you've done it over 2 boards, but could you map out what's going on that board that you've got there?
Yeah. I love that idea from the squad there about visualizers, because you can actually map it out like their exact book. You don't want to have word banks fixed that are pre-typed or models that are pre-typed. It's got to live and breathe live in the room. And just to show you here what's happening, this is learning chunk 1. This is learning chunk 2, and this is learning chunk 3. And in this learning chunk here, I have organised it into 3 synonym banks. So this is synonym bank 1, synonym bank 2, and synonym bank 3. So, and all of this happens before modelling even gets going.
You're using that as your bank
and I'm using it as my bank to model from, so that children, when they look at my model, go, I don't have to copy Mrs. I've got loads of my own ideas that I can lean on. Okay, yeah, visualizers, absolutely great idea. Okay, now just to make this point, I might have now 1 noun bank on the go, but really, I want to gather some noisy verbs so that we can bring the street scene to life. So this is an instance where I would have almost 2 initiates, because I'd want 2 very good word banks. So children, I want us to be word collectors, and I want you to see if you can pick up 5 verbs ending in ing that are really noisy. So the sort of thing I would talk into the room, I want them to be on the listen out for 5. They can count them on their fingers, this sort of thing.
Can we address some questions in a minute?
Yeah, of course you can. The city was heaving with traffic. Taxis were honking their horns and bicycles were whizzing by. On the pavement, crowds were stomping towards the station where the low rumbling of underground trains could be heard. Tourists were yelping with excitement as shops blared thumping music. Now, I've drenched that in about 7 or 8 ing ending noisy verbs, but I want them to see how many they can catch. They're talking and jotting, so they're chotting. We give them a chance to do that, a minute or so, and then we go kind calling out. And in the kind calling out, I'm getting those words mirrored back, like thumping, yelping, honking, rumbling, stomping or whizzing, but we're collecting other ones. You know, the ambulances are wailing, the cars are rumbling, the police cars are screeching, they're whistling, they're chattering, the gates are clattering, and so on. So there's lots of ideas there. And children will come up with the obvious ones like the cars are beeping, the taxis are honking, that sort of thing. What this means is with that bank, it might be smaller than that, but you get what I'm going for here. With that bank, and this is where we have to think, you can't hit modelling and just give children one or two other options while you're in the model. You've got to work hard prior to the model. So the vault is deep, and the vault becomes deep by us having tight modelled narration, the children being word collectors, where they have a chance to leach high order talk from us that can be used and placed in word banks so it's the right words at the right time. Yes, Mr. C, any questions?
Yeah, there are some questions and there's some sort of comments. Are we doing independent writing next week, are we?
No, we're not doing independent writing. If you want some time on independent writing, do get in touch at info@thetrainingspace.co.uk. We've done independent writing before.
There are some other videos on independent.
Yeah, I don't know if they've been deleted, but get in touch with us. Mr. C does a really good hour call with anybody who wants kind of a slow and meaningful step-by-step, the difference from your teaching sequence live in the moment to what you're going to be doing for independent writing. Okay.
Before you move on.
Yes.
That's not the question.
Okay, Mr. C.
Okay, I'm just trying to find it.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things around. So not questions, more comments about the sort of like, I suppose the manager. I'm going to on this one.
Yeah, do.
So I've got some questions or some comments from Joe about managing kind calling out. I think the thing is, it's down to sort of like your just your general behaviour management. You don't want them going absolutely bonkers. You want them to be active. You want them to be focused on what you're doing. It's absolutely fine for them to be calling out. That's the whole point of it. You don't want hands up because you're not even looking at them. When you're scribing for them, so you're just going away. Are you using that video in today's? No. Well, there is a video in other. If you go to other videos on YouTube, that Jane's done, you'll see how she does it. But the point of it is that you've got them generating language. You're live scribing. So you're not even looking at them. You don't want hands up. You don't want to be slowing that whole process down. So it is just about having, some sort of like basic polite rules that go on, which is why Jane calls it kind calling out. There was something else I was going to mention as well, Jane. I can't remember what it is now, which somebody was bringing up, which I will remember later, and I'm sure I'll discuss it again if I. But again, going back to we're not covering independent over the next couple of sessions. I know a few people are asking about independent writing now. There are some videos on YouTube about independent on Jane's channel, but also if you need some further clarification on it, I do. You can book in a session with me and I'll go through it in detail, etc. Jane, I'm going to move on back to you because I can't remember what the other point was.
Oh dear, crash bang wallop, it's all happening.
Stop rocking on that chair.
Next week, we're going to talk very closely about modelled writing. But
that's what I was going to talk about, modelled writing.
Oh, okay, that's happening next week. Yeah. But go on then, back to you, face on, please. Mr. C, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Kai made a really good comment about the modelling process, which I 100% agree with and condone, and I think it's the most important part. And we see a lot of people sort of like sharing PowerPoints on the Teacher Squad Facebook group. If you're not already a member, please join. It's brilliant. Kai actually runs it. He's the admin there. Which is on Facebook. So if you just Google or search for Teacher Squad. But what Kai is saying, I'm just going to pop it up again. He's saying that You've got to write that sentence live. You've got to model it live. There's no point in having it as a power on your PowerPoint and showing it, oh, this sentence. They've got to see the writing process so that they understand the thinking of the writer. But we'll go through that more next week. So I'm jumping the gun a bit.
As per jumping the gun. Right. What children need to see and we're not going to do a lot on live modelling today, but you can see there the thinking side, which they'll see Mrs. C's, the teacher's really big version of. They'll have their own version of all those words. We then hit live modelling. It's not as one I've made earlier, like the Blue Peter effect, typed on a PowerPoint. We are writing it live using a visualizer or on our whiteboard. We have a pen in our hand. And we're going to show children exactly what we're going to do. We want to now bring 3 noises into the story, and we're going to place Lucas straight into the city. So I'm going to start with sort of the clamour and the clank of the city, the hubbub, and I want sort of the wall of sound to hit him. I'm going to start with his name though. I'm going to place him, strong impact writing on the character. Lucas. Lucas, I want him to step off into the wall of noise. Lucas stepped off the bus. A wall of noise. I prefer, I think, that the clamour that I had before. I'm going to change that to the clamour. The clamour of the city hit him. Full stop. Now I want to bring in 3 of these nouns and bring them to life with the verbs. Lucas, oh, good job, I reread. Look, get the stepped off the bus. The clamour of the city hit him. Now I want to almost do nearby noises. Let's start with a bicycle. Not just one, I'm going to put a few. It's a city, it's busy. Bicycles whizzed by. Oh, I've done that quite quickly. I don't know if I want to add any more detail. I'll come back and have a think about that. I'm going to move on to the pavement. Bicycles whizzed by. Loud thumping songs. Yeah, loud thumping songs, something from the fashion stores. Now, I'm not really sure what I want to put there. Loud thumping songs. Oozed isn't right, is it? Evaded, permeated. Sounds a bit slow. Maybe I need thumped there. And then change that for loud. I'm going to put chart songs thumped from the fashion stores, and then almost like a bit more in the distance. I want the sort of road repair machinery, and the road repair machinery. Oh. Make sure you check your spelling, Mrs. C. Machinery thudded in the distance. So it's almost like that near view, mid view, further view, but as sounds. We'll talk more about modelling next week. But when children look at this, we want them, they can use different words. They don't feel trapped now to follow my model, because they've got all of these ideas and they're choosing their 3 and they can bring it to life so that they can go off in this little chunk and they might come up with something like this. The purpose is nice and wide. It's through the lens of sound. You want to get Lucas off the bus. You want to bring the city to life with 3 noisy sounds. Lucas stepped off the bus and the sounds of the city hit him. Ambulance sirens were wailing, traffic lights were beeping, and market stall sellers were yelling out their bargains. I mean, the children done a better job than me there with their beautiful lining up of the list with their colon. Yes, Mr. C.
Okay, just jumping back to what Joey something or other said earlier on about this. There is a sort of like a common feeling, or where people don't really understand what's going on with the white stuff, where they will say, oh, it's going to be 30 pieces of exactly the same piece of writing. The point is that this, what you're doing in your learning, in your writing lessons, your sentence stacking lessons, is this is not an independent piece of writing. We're using the lessons to actually focus through an element of the writing rainbow through one of the lenses, and we're using the sentence level work as an excuse to teach that particular element of the writing rainbow. And what we're doing is, as we do that, as we continue to carry on doing that, we're basically building their repertoire as writers, and we visit and revisit these lenses. And all that we're doing with each of these chunks is making concrete all those elements. So when people say, oh, you'll end up with 30 pieces of the same piece of writing, how can you use that in moderation, for instance? Well, you wouldn't be using that work as moderation. They're independent writing, which we're not going to go into detail about today, but what we want them to do in their independent writing is to incorporate everything that they've learnt. And you're not going to really get this in unit 1, the first unit you do, or the second unit you do. But once you're about 3 or 4 units in, as people will, I'm sure, tell me in the chat now, they begin to start incorporating everything they learn. So when the naysayers and the people who don't really understand how it works talk about 30 pieces of identical writing, that is not what you're going to get from it. What you're going to get from it is well-equipped writers who understand the writing process and who understand how to incorporate all these elements into their independent eventually, but we're teaching them specific elements through the lenses. Did that waffle on a bit there, Jane? Look at the time.
No, it's
already.
okay. No, we're all good. We're all done. Yeah. So, don't feel.
Andrea Crellin.
Hi, Andrea. Oh.
Says that she's been doing writing stuff for a long time, Andrea.
Yes.
And Andrea's telling us that she gets 30 different pieces. Honestly.
Absolutely. We've got to recognise there's 2 parts to our jobs. One, we've got to teach children how to write. And secondly, we've got to teach them how to work independently, truly independently, with all of their own creative ideas and show us what they can do by themselves. They're 2 very different things. Okay, here is some beautiful work looping back to that idea of how might we support the lowest attainers on their thinking side. And this is a big up to Charlotte Loveridge from St. Peter's in Buckinghamshire. I want you to see, following the unit, The Secret of Black Rock, and you can find that on the Unit Plan website. This book here from a...
You've also got a whole series of live lessons on The Secret.
Yeah, I have, yeah. Yeah, so here we've got a book from a high retaining pupil in year 2, and you can see here how it's organised into the 3 learning chunks, or Pens Decided to Die, that's a laugh. Just here is split off there. Oh, don't want to play. Oh, died, doesn't matter. So here, there is a book from, following typed teacher narration, lovely work, pulled back, mirrored back, like uncontrollably and desperately and frantically, but they're also chucking in there quickly and nervously their own ideas. And then on the right hand side is for the lowest attainers. They've got images, they've got sentence stems, they've got words, they've got phrases, but there's still a requirement through kind calling out and that time to chart that they're adding their own ideas. So this is children, both of them in the same class, but different ways that children are supported on the thinking side. But there's lots of examples of that on our Instagram account. Do get involved on the teachers. The Instagram account is called @Jane Considine Education. If you're not already following us, we have the Teacher Squad, where we share lots of really good concrete examples of how it's going in your schools. If you want to find out more from me about independent writing, as they say, hear it from the horse's mouth, we've got 4 more events before the end of the year. We've got 2 coming up in the summer term, one in Birmingham, and that is on the 16th of June if you want to book a place. If you're old school, you can phone us up.
I think that Birmingham might be, if it isn't already, it's very nearly sold out. So
okay, Mr. C. It might be sold out. We don't know. He don't know. We don't know what's going on. My pen don't work. Info at the training space if you want to book a place. Phone us. And if you use the code, and I hope this is the right code because I've left Mr. C a chance to check this, JC20. So if you can look on Instagram.
JC20. If they don't book tonight, they book from tomorrow onwards.
Yeah, so that is the code for 20% off to, we're in Birmingham and we're in Newcastle, and in the autumn term we're going to Liverpool, Leeds and Glasgow, and that is a chance where we talk really slow and carefully through independent writing and editing to meet
everything
right stuff, and to meet, DFE standards. You might not be in the 25% this year, but if you get chosen next year, that you're well and truly equipped with portfolios to be proud of. So I'd love to see you.
Sharon E. just asked when you're coming to the south. I think Sharon's in Kent.
Yeah.
Have you been in Kent already this year?
Well, we had, I know there's dates coming up all the time. We've had lots of people saying they want me in Bristol, they want me in Kent. So we're going to see what we can do so I can spread myself about a bit. So yeah, see if you can get to one of those dates, and also keep an eye on the page, and we'll add some more. Next week, next Sunday, we're going to talk really closely about demonstration writing and modelled writing, and we're going to carefully look at how we can make our practice even better. We're all really good at it, but actually, what is the icing on the cake? Any other questions, Mr. C?
Let me just skim through, because there's lots of people talking. It's very active tonight, actually.
That's gorgeous. It's because for Year 6 teachers, SATs are over. They're all a bit more chill, I think.
Yeah, poor buggers.
He's lost the plot,
hasn't he?
hasn't he?
Listen. So could you just remind people about your live lessons on YouTube?
Yes.
Because we've got a huge amount of videos on YouTube that you can go and look back on. So there's some Sunday sessions which are training like this. But there's loads. I'm just talking here because I'm better to talk. So Jane, during lockdowns, Jane did like 3 or 4 units. So on this channel that you're already on, if you go in and subscribe, and don't forget to like this video, by the way, or dislike it if you dislike it. It's up to you. But if you go back to the channel, you'll see that there's lots of. I think there's a whole sort of like channel. Yes, I'm smiling, Jane. This is me smiling. There's a whole channel. There's a whole channel which is just about Jane's live lessons, because she did loads of units during lockdown for children around the world. So go and have a look at them, because it gives you a real idea about the pace and the rigour that is used. But also somebody's asking about year 1. I don't know if there's anything. There's no specific years that they're aimed at. They was aimed at all ages, although there might be. What's Secret Blackrock? Is that year? Is it year 2?
It's on our unit plans written for year 2.
Right, so Secret Blackrock is a year 2 unit plan, but of course it's pitched to, when we had, I think our oldest person that was doing it was 102. Is that right? I think we had somebody from somewhere that was 102 doing those lessons as well. So I'll go back to you, Jane.
So we've got 4 units on YouTube. We've got a letter unit linked to the day the crowns quit. We've got the Secret of Black Rock. We've got My Christmas Star, that's a Christmas unit, and the other one we've got, which has just escaped me at the moment, linked to Sean Tan, The Lost Thing, and we've also got Feast, which is a link to a Disney animation. So there's 5 taught units, what they do if you start at number 1 is show very explicitly how a lesson is taught over time, and we've got lots of teachers who it's taught as a unit, and a lot of teachers watch those, manipulate them for themselves, and apply them into the classroom, but they mirror our units on the site as well. So they're a really good place to start if you haven't started yet, about the power of getting children ready for meeting your model, so that the vocabulary vault is strong and popping off to put children in a really good place.
Somebody's asked how many more of these sessions have we got left?
Well, next week is our last session on demonstration writing for this little block, but we're always thinking about putting little runner sessions, listening to the community about what they want help with. You know, they're not at any fixed time, but we might say we give people a lot of warning, but next week at 7:30 is our final session, but nothing has been taken off YouTube. Last week we did a session on spelling, and the week before, this has been a series of 4, and number 4 is next week. So it'd be gorgeous if we can see you then. Thank you to my old, they're not old as in old, but the old squad who've been there since the beginning, who keep checking in, who keep us going, quite frankly. Thank you to all of you. You know who you are. I really do appreciate it. And good luck to year 2 people who are still sat in, and I will see you same time next week when we talk modelled writing. Thank you, Mr. C, as well.
Thank you, Mrs. C.
And I'll see you all soon. Bye.